Hello, and welcome to the Inspired Living podcast with Ellen Broderick. Each week, we delve into a conversation with an individual who has found their passion and is pursuing it. This week, my guest is Paula Ferenc. Paula is a mother, a grandmother, and an untiring advocate for children and families. For 26 years, Paula was the program director for the Circle program, a summer camp and year-round mentoring program in Central New Hampshire that provides support and guidance for at-risk girls and their families. Many of the girls served over the years have become thoughtful, contributing members of our communities. Some returned as counselors to pass on their learning to the younger girls. Currently, Paula is the executive director of the Belknap House, a year-round emergency shelter for families with children who reside in Belknap County. Its mission includes empowering families to become self-sufficient and independent by providing opportunities of education and resources. Paula is a thoughtful, energetic, and deeply committed individual who cares for all and brings her many gifts to those most in need. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here, and that's lovely. All those lovely, I don't know, words.
I also saw that on a site of yours. I saw the quote, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples." And that, I believe, is a Mother Teresa quote. And I think it really speaks to the work you have done, because you are a collaborator and you are a person who reaches out and makes connections and really sees the spark of life and opportunity and possibility in people. So I wanted to start with that and just wondering where that came from in your life.
So my previous life to the Circle program, I taught school for 12 years, and I became, my early years, I became a special education teacher. So therein lies another population of youth that really struggled. And when I was, really, it goes back to being, when I was in second grade, if you can believe it, remember this so well. I always wanted to be a teacher. So we were playing different things and people playing house, and I always wanted to play teacher. So I was, that person. But, anyway, it was, so when I became, I was going to school, I wanted to become a teacher. And at that time, there was just so many people becoming educators, if you can imagine, quite opposite to now. And it was new, special education, and what was happening with that, the PL 94 and 142 laws and all of that was really new. And I decided to go into that. But truly, I think it was an underlying piece of me, because I also had a sister, the youngest of our family, who the seventh child my parents had, who was born with Down syndrome. And she, as a part of that, you have other physical ailments, and her heart was not fully developed. So she did not, live very long, a couple of months really. And I was a freshman in high school, and loving children and loving, all that I did. I think that a part of that was also wanting to honor that, honor Allison, and that, I didn't really have time to know her much, but it just all played out. So that's kind of how I got into working. And, but I think I've always, wanted to be a teacher, and I really wanted to help others. So that it fell into this group that really have, life struggles, is just what kind of came, it just unfolded. And I do feel like that's a part of what we bring in. I do believe we bring things in with us, our gifts and talents. And that's kind of what, I spun a lot with working with all of the children and their parents, was that, there's a solution to every issue. Everybody has gifts and talents. There isn't anybody that doesn't have their path, their way to be unique and to offer that who they are. And so that's just worked through all the years I taught school and to special ed, as well as circle girls and camp, and presently with all the families I work. It is really natural outplay. It's been amazing. As I've been thinking about, chatting with you, I'm like, wow, this is like crazy. I've done this in so many different avenues and very different forms, really. And it comes so naturally to me. I'll add that, I went to Southern Connecticut State College, not obviously that, but I obviously went to college to become a teacher. And I got my master's in guidance and counseling as well. But when I went, I did my 4-year program in 3.5 years because I just could not be bothered going to school was my attitude. I was bored. I just thought I got to take zoology. Why do I have to take this stuff? I just want to be a teacher. And I have to say, in looking back on those moments too, I'm like, I do believe we have innate gifts and talents. I do believe we have those things that are natural to us as individuals, and every single person on this planet. I don't think there's an exception. So that, so I know that some of the things that I've employed, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be in a camp setting, or whether it be in a homeless shelter, has to do with part of what I have within me, that is that gift and talent that enters into the things that you do learn, in life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that that I picked up about your leadership, is that you really step into your power, into your leadership with conviction.
Mhm.
And I could see that in the few times that I was at the circle camp when there were girls there, that there was both the love, the understanding of each one of them holding a gift, that nobody's without that. And there was a real vision as to what was going to benefit each of those girls. And a lot of that was to create a community that they could really become a part of, and that could maybe serve as something to hold them through maybe difficult times in their lives. And I wonder if you want to speak to that at all.
Yes. Well, I think it's so fascinating how, again, if we take time to kind of reflect and then, move forward and do things as they play out naturally. But the circle program was a wonderful opportunity for me. It was like, it was a fit made in heaven, really. My good friend, as you know, Mary, was looking for someone to do the children's part, that, find the children, do the program piece. And she was charged with being the executive director of this brand new organization that really has a lot of promise, but it was an unknown, and there was nothing, that was going on with it to start with the exception of its, founders of that really wanted a program for the local girls, and the mentoring and the camp experience, which really was what we had to go on. But the name, the circle program, I know Camp Onaway, who started it, came up with that name. I'm not sure how they did. I know they had a variety of things that they were thinking about, but in retrospect, the things that I employed, or I tried to employ, and of course Mary was, a fantastic fit, because we did a lot of work together, especially in the beginning years.
This is Mary Joyce.
Mary Joyce, yes, Mary Joyce. Thanks, Mary Joyce, for bringing me into that world. Very much. It was a fantastic partnership, for sure. But anyway, when you think about the circle, and we did things in a circle. I mean, it wasn't because, oh, and it wasn't this thing where the name of the program is the circle program, so we have to do things in a circle. It was quite naturally unfolded. We had a morning circle every morning, greeting each other before we did anything else, before we went in for breakfast. We had a closing circle every evening, closing, and just everybody had a chance to briefly say what they loved about the day. But the power of the circle, this would resonate with you. There's nothing like it. It's the power of the world. It's people coming together, and we know this from early ancient times where they would, we go sit around a circle, a fire, but just come and do their work in a circle. But everything of power is in a circle. I mean, you have the sun, you have the moon, you have the seasons, you have birds, which, nature teaches us so much. Birds make their nests in a circle. You have, our lifespan, when you want to think about it, beginning to end, is in a circle. The wind as it whirls in the sky when it's most powerful and it's most, really healing, because I love the wind. Healing and cleansing, forms a circle. The spiral dance that, so many birds do. And so I feel like there was an essence of this extra energy that was allowed us, during the time we were there, and then being in nature. There's nothing more powerful than nature and the gift of nature that it gives us. It gives us peace, it gives us healing, it gives us, all the life force. So all of that added in to perhaps my passion, my love, and my ability to really make such strong connections with those that really don't feel worthy, right? They feel like they don't count. They're out of step, they're out of time. For whatever the reason, low income, learning differences, awkwardness, all of it. And I think the culmination of that, with us being able to be stewards of where we were staying throughout the summer, and helping all of those kids there realize that this is for them, and it was a gift for them, and that people came, and people giving money because they care about them. I mean, that piece of it was added in all the time. The layers and the threads of what was really brought to fruition during those times. And then when you have a residential setting and you have the opportunity to have 24 hours, for weeks, that was such a gift, because you can come and you can go, but then we were in it together. And we were all in it together. The adults, oh my God, the fantastic staff that we had, all the different college age kids that we came, and they were, themselves at a step at a time, or they just learned so much and they valued it, and they gave, so much. So I think there were so many variables that, I like to think that I did a fantastic job because I loved it so much. But there were so many things that helped it along. I think it was meant to be, something for, something of importance for children that really needed to know that they counted, that no matter what's going on in their life, there's a solution to find. That, if they make a mistake, it's an opportunity for a retake. Just see them as stepping stones, one in front of the other, and then you have come up and something, different appears for you. I remember, one of the girls, and she, to this day, I'm in touch with her. She's older and has, a partner and a family. And she will say, I saved her life. And she was in foster care. She was in a group home. She had to go into a group home because she was taken, away from her parents when she was reunited with her parents, because she had anger, and she had some things that were going on in her life. Then she was placed in a group home. And so I did go to the courts and asked for them to put her in my care for the summer, because I wanted her to come back to camp. And she was fantastic. She had so many gifts and talents you didn't see. She was such a support to me at camp. She could do so many different things, like technology wise, trying to do these things and getting the movie set up. And then she was a leader. I could see that in her. And of course, we don't see those things in ourselves. And so when she was there, she did not want to come to camp. She said, no, I'm not good enough to be at circle camp. Look at, I screwed up. And she said, I'm a screw up. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I said, you are this, this, and this. And I said, you're anything but that. I said, look, you were talking about behaviors. We all have behaviors. We all have something that we need to tweak and we need to change and we need to learn about, but it's not who you are. It's only a piece of who you are. That's a behavior that is, that grows. And, and so, I had to like pull her along. She came, of course, and she hung out with me, in my cabin for the summer. And she had a leadership role. She had a leadership role. She thought she was a screw up. She had a leadership role. I gave her that. It wasn't because I felt sorry for her. It's because she had that. And she's doing well. And, it's hard to hear somebody say you in one way, because you realize, really where were they in their, in their selves that, I saved her life. But she said, if I didn't come back to camp, she said, I probably would have gone down a darker road, And so I think that it's not, I think the opportunity that we've offered girls within the Circle program, and that same opportunity I see is happening within the Belknap House. And it's not because of me, it's because of where I'm placing myself, where there are populations of people everywhere that feel this way. And that, am I grateful that I have, the ability to help people see a different way to look at, but it's still them to do it's still up to them to do the work, to do the change, to see it and to feel it and to be open to it. Right. So, I think there's a lot of things that divide us. But I think the opportunities that I've been a part of, whether it be teaching, at camp and with mentoring, or right now in this homeless shelter, my gift is to have people realize that there's no end of the road. There's only beginnings. And they have, they have the ability. I mean, one of the families that obtained a 3-bedroom apartment recently, he's been in recovery, the dad, and he's doing really well. And and when they went in to see the place where they were going, it was all freshly painted. It's a low-income housing, and it's down in Concord. And he came back to get some more things. The shelter said, hey, how was it? And I was I'm so excited, right? And he was just very kind of flat and just didn't know what to say. And I said, so is it okay? Because I'm like worried. What is it? Because I'm, I was under the impression it was going to be A, and it was fantastic. He said, well, we're very humble people. And I said, yeah. And I wasn't quite sure where we went with that. And they said, it is really nice. And then I was realizing that he wasn't feeling like he should have such a nice place. And I'm like, oh man, I said, come on. I said, you deserve it. You deserve it more than, anybody I can name right this moment. I said, you are doing such a good job. You have a beautiful family. I said, you're doing, you're on this earth because you're here, you should have a beautiful place to live. But people, and it was such an eye-opener, because I'm like, wow, people just think that they don't deserve even a place to live. Come on. I mean, that is tough, right? And it's so hard that, and I can get onto my advocacy, because I also was an education advocate, volunteer for many years. I can get in that realm and then start like being, angry. Maybe it's frustration that we have so many people that feel that way. And how are we helping them? What is going on? It's more like it seems to be, a widening gap too these days with, I don't know. But anyway.
Well, let me pick up on that and just ask you, for somebody who might be listening to this podcast and thinking, oh, I'd really like to help out in some way. Maybe you could speak to the ways that there are things that just regular people who are leading their lives might, take a period of time or or have an opportunity to also contribute? What would you recommend?
Right. Well, there certainly are a lot of organizations doing wonderful work on behalf of those that are at low income, and whether they be girls, whether it be mentoring, whether it be camps, whether it be homeless shelters, and all of the above are plentiful. If people want to give of their volunteer services, people want to give, monetary donations, any size donations always support. Obviously. And so, and those are readily, found within within their, geographic areas, wherever people are listening. But I will also say, if people could be aware, if you can, if you're out and about and you notice people, I mean, even the people who are homeless and unsheltered, not working with that, population that aren't coming in. There are families that have been, there are unsheltered, and they don't really want to, I think they're maybe fearful of what they're going to be viewed as, but I've had a few of the police in the area saying, I see them sleeping in their vans at night, and I try to get them to give you a call and this kind of thing. So for whatever the reason is, we are quick to make a determination and decision that they're, that there's something negative that they've done to create it, which life does unfold in certain ways, and that could be, but you really don't know people's stories at all. And the stories, and what I will say is, and I've said this to many of the Rotary groups I speak with, because I want this message to be a piece of it. It's just a kind of a good place to have people kind of ponder. There isn't anybody in my family that I mean, within my family, I can name numerous people, extended family and whatnot, that have struggled. And I believe, and I would say this to the Rotarians, I believe there's, most of you will have a story that you can tell of somebody struggling in your family. As an adult, back, they had to take a few steps back, and there was a safety net. There were people that were inviting them back into their homes, people supporting them with monetary, help, whatever it might be. There has always been that. There are many people that don't have safety nets. They just don't have a bigger group of people that they're struggling with, and they could reach out to an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a parent to say, and many people do. And that's part of what this is. It's part of that. People get into a situation, then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And they end up, sleeping. They will reach out to friends and sleep on their couches and do these kinds of things, but that doesn't help them get on their feet, right? So if you know of people, like that, encourage them to go to this. There's so many services. I have to say, there are a lot of social services around that do help try to get people on their feet. Now the housing thing is hard. The Belknap House is hugely unique because we do provide case management. We provide a system that we kind of employ with each family, depending on what their barriers to being housed have become. But they have goals to come up with. It's a collaborative effort. They have to tell that story. They have to say what it is that do they feel like they need to do next. And it's from learning how to budget to getting a job to keeping their recovery in place, things like that. But I think if people could be aware of that and then just try to help direct people, that might be something that would be a help. And you know what? There's not a lot of just realizing that people are struggling that need help and have a different outlook on it. I mean, I know in one of the New Hampshire business, we talk about the housing in New Hampshire. Housing in New Hampshire is like 0.05% of any housing availability for anybody right now. But obviously for the lower income, it's really tough. And there's a lot. And so there was one gentleman, I think he's the president of the Business Weekly Review magazine. And he said, there's zoning laws in New Hampshire that are preventing the opportunity for there to be different kinds of housing that's built for populations of people. And so if you're a business person and you care about your community, or if you're not a business person, you care about your community, right? Go and find out what's happening and ask those planning boards the questions about that and what kinds of restrictions are there. Because I do feel like, in New Hampshire, I'm sure is not alone in this. I'm saying it because this is where I am. And because it's dire, it's awful for people. I mean, we can't even get the workforce people to come and work at the hospitals and that kind of a thing because there's no place to live. But it's asking questions. It's if you care about your community and your citizenry, ask. There's so many things you could do.
Wonderful. Your Belknap House is also particular because you take in only families, right? And that, it seemed to me, was defined by at least one adult and at least one child, and the exception of that being the woman who was pregnant. Then
even if you're if you don't have any other children but you're pregnant, you count as a family. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing that I was thinking about that is that for a family that might be reticent to come because of what they might be exposing their children to, that there is probably a feeling of more being held and protected if there are just other families there, and that people are actually getting the help and the support that they need, including their envisioning of what their life is going to be and laying that out in a way that they can foresee meeting. So that does seem to be another, particular gift or something that's very that foresees a problem and creates a solution, at least to some extent. So that's, I thought that was very beautiful.
It's really a helping hand up, right? We talk about it being a helping hand up because they're getting the gifts and the skills, the opportunity to be there with your children in a home. It is a really cool concept, and we don't allow people who are using, we do drug testing. So if you're in recovery, we're there, we're supportive, we'll help you make sure you maintain your all of those support systems that you have in place. But it is about the safety of children. It is about children who are most vulnerable during homelessness. It is about them feeling that their parents are present to them, and not because it's trauma inducing, right? Just being homeless, and whether they know they are or not, the parents' reactions to being homeless impact those children as well. And so if you have somebody who is just, doesn't know what's going on, and you're scared, you come up with only that way in which you're dealing with your children oftentimes. So the beauty is that we have a playroom, we have a computer room, we have a book nook, we have a beautiful living room space. We have 2 kitchens that families, use and make their meals and whatnot. And when I shared once, when I was chatting with somebody about it, is, in the grants you have to write, oh yeah, how many families did you serve? How many bed nights are there? How many people did you, were you successfully, completed your program, which means they found a place to live. But what I see is the community that the families form themselves living there. Because at first it's like, oh yeah, it's a little weird, but you're all in it. You finally realize, okay, we're all in this together. We all have children. And so of course that can be kind of crazy sometimes, but just everybody getting used to each other. But what I see is, and I think it's because, you know, again, it's the energy and it's the foundation of the essence of the place, which was similar, you know, to whatever space that I try to create, is that of acceptance, of kindness, of love. So when they start, after they're in for a little bit, they're like, this is pretty good, you know, and they're like, oh, I really like it here. And they're like, maybe I can live here. And I'm like, no, you can't live here, but you're welcome to be here for now. But the kids, they, you know, the playroom, they're like happy-go-lucky. I will say we have kids that, you know, the teens, it's different for them. It's a little bit more awkward and whatnot, but these are the younger kids. But it opens space for the parents. It's like, oh my God, you know, the weight of the world is off. Their shoulders go down about 20 feet. They have room to start thinking about what they have to do now, to you know, to get to the next step. And it is a fantastic idea. There was a small group of people that started this. Back in 2014, they became incorporated as a nonprofit. There were 5 community members who just were appalled. They were business people in town, all local to the Laconia area. And they heard about it. They knew families were living in their cars, kids in the wintertime, you know. They were couch surfing. They were spending money on maybe staying in a hotel room. So they investigated all of the, they went to a few of the community meetings that were happening, like, I think it's like the Lakes Region Community Services. So you would have, you know, meetings that you could, you know, speak to with all the agencies present, and they would, you know, agency meetings, they would attend to find out what was going on. And so this group decided that they wanted to find a house and start a shelter within a house. This is a 3,860 square foot Dutch colonial that they bought. And they went to the realtor at the time and said, they had the map of the area, and we serve Belknap County, not just Laconia. We serve Belknap County, but it is in Laconia, the house is. And so they had dotted all of the community agency services. There's like 40 of them, right? Or even from the hospital to this walking distance to the supermarket, within a mile radius, so that no matter what, you could access. And they said, we want to find something within this. And they did. I mean, it's a magical story, right? It's fantastic. And so, yeah, I'm really happy for them, because it was rough to go in the beginning. And now we've celebrated 5 years, and you know, we're doing well. And I mean, with the exception of the housing, you know, there's families that call all the time, and we just can't take more families in until we have families move forward. So it'd be nice if somebody would buy us another house. That would be good. Anybody out there?
One thing in what you're saying, Paula, and all of it is your I'm going back to what you said about, if you see a homeless person, you know, don't just jump to this conclusion that it's something that they did and that they are responsible for. And there's something about non-judgment and the view that we are all one, that we are, and that goes back to that circle, right? That we are inseparable in some way. And that if one is taking care of, there was a professor that I had in college, and she said, if you have a child, because I also was an early childhood teacher in my first job, so my first training also. And she said, if you have a child in your classroom who is needy, it is not a misuse of your energy to take care of the need in that child, because then you're taking care of that need in all children. And it seems to me that that's a bit of your philosophy. Is it's not a well, one, I'm not going to make a prejudgment, because how would I know? And two, taking care of and giving, as you were saying, a hand up, a means to people, is not a giveaway or a handout. It is really taking care of that need within ourselves and within one another. It seems like that is where you come from.
Yeah. And even taking the time to realize and see what that person has in them that you can help to spark.
Yes.
Because everybody does. I mean, you know it. You can talk to somebody, a stranger in the supermarket or something, and all of a sudden it's engaging in some way. So taking the time to just know that that exists in there is that light that exists in all. And of course we do want to, I mean, and that's what I love to do, is try to get them to spark it. I mean, I can't do that, right? I'm not that, powerful.
But you can point a
But
light
it's
to
getting
it.
to help them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was thinking about this interview and thinking about you, Paula, I located a quote from Saint Francis of Assisi. He says, "There are beautiful, wild forces within us. Let them turn the mills inside and fill the sacks that feed even heaven."
That's beautiful. I love that.
So
I'll
I
have
think
to share that with me.
I think that speaks to what you bring into the world. And thank you so much for spending the time today. And I'm sure there are many people who will listen to this who will also, as I am, be inspired by your life and what you do with it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for being here. It was really nice.